Hello and welcome to your next Life Sciences lesson. This is a section which I know many of you actually find quite boring and difficult to learn. But it's actually all quite logical, and hopefully by the end of this lesson you will understand this particular section and be able to see how everything fits together. What we are going to be looking at today is the different types of plant tissue. If all plant cells are the same, when you eat an apple, why don't they feel the same? Some bits are hard, some bits are soft. And the reason is those are all plant cells, but they have all been specialized to be able to carry out a different function in keeping the plant alive. And what we are going to be looking at is the different types of cells that keep a plant alive and what they look like. We are going to be looking at the three main types of plant tissues and what they do. First one is epidermal tissue, which is the skin surrounding a plant, bit like your skin. The second one is the conducting or vascular tissue, which is a bit like your blood. It takes substances around the plant. Then, where there are no other cells, we have different types of ground tissue filling in the spaces. To be able to understand tissues, you need to remember the different parts of a cell and what these different parts of the cell actually do. If we look at this cell, we can see it's got a cell wall. And the cell wall is what gives the plant support. Some cells, for example, in the wood of a tree, the cell walls are very, very thick because their job is supporting the tree. Inside cells, we have these green things, and they are chloroplasts. And they would be found in places like leaves because their job is photosynthesis. Most cells have a vacuole, and in that vacuole there would be dissolved sugars and things like that. So depending on where the cell is and what its function is, it can have a thicker wall. It can have more chloroplasts. It can have bigger vacuoles. To be able to understand what's going on, we need to understand the concepts that you have already done in class. I'm just going to revise them for you. You've learnt about mitosis, which is when cells divide to form many cells. You can think of those cells as little baby cells. As the cells get bigger, they become specialized, and we say they differentiate. When they become specialized so that they can carry out a particular function. And when a whole lot of cells become specialized to carry out a function, they form a tissue. And these are the three main types of tissue in a plant: epidermal tissue, ground tissue, and conducting or vascular tissue. To understand tissues, we need to think of it in practical terms. For example, eating an apple. Eating your vegetables which your parents tell you you must eat. Sometimes they're delicious to eat and sometimes they're a little bit tough. That depends on what the cells in that particular vegetable are like. For example, young vegetables are tender because they don't have thick cell walls. Old vegetables are tougher because they have thick cell walls. Different parts, let's say of an apple, have different thicknesses of walls depending on what function they need to carry out. And that is what you need to think of to understand plant tissues. Where is the cell and what is it actually going to be doing? The first type of cells we're looking at are cells that have just been formed by mitosis. They are tiny cells, we can think of them as baby cells, and they are going to grow up and become specialized. They are found in the tips of roots and stems, and we're going to have a look at what do these meristematic or baby cells look like. Tiny little cell, just being formed. Cell that is busy dividing by mitosis. Small cells, no air spaces between them, and if we look at their walls, their walls are actually quite thin. Once these cells have been formed, they grow up. They become specialized and they become what we call permanent tissue, where they are specialized to carry out a specific function. And the permanent tissues are the ones that we're going to spend most of the rest of this lesson having a look at. So, permanent tissues, once cells have been formed, they differentiate. And once they are permanent tissues, they cannot divide. So you can think of them as grown-up cells. And depending on what their function is, they would look different. If we look at this picture, this is a picture of a root cut open, and we can see the cells on the outside have a particular appearance. The cells on the inside look different, and those right in the center look completely different. And that is because these are the three different types of permanent tissue that we are going to be looking at in the next segment of this lesson. We're now going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be looking at all of these different types of permanent tissues.